And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lockren along with you on this Friday morning. It's a 10-game NBA slate. We'll go position by position as we always do here on the Early Bird. If you want 50% off your first month at Awesemo.com, use that promo code EarlyBird, one word, at checkout, and that'll get you 50% off your first month of membership. Dave, it's Friday morning. The weekend is upon us. Not that that really does anything in our world because we work even still, but how the hell are you doing?
Yeah, doing good, man. Doing good. The Randall news yesterday was something else, huh? Always something new. But
And then they kept it close.
Well, I know, but are you really that surprised? I mean, yeah, it's kind of surprising, but that's why. Like, we had on the deeper dive, Adam and I had a big thing, like why we don't predict blowouts. There was a lot of people in chat were saying, yeah, you don't predict blowouts. And then some were like, that's exactly why you predict blowouts. And then apparently Eddie is big into saying you have to predict blowouts. So now they would like, us to debate him on a live show, which I would be perfectly happy to do. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But yesterday, of course, one game sample, but this is kind of the point. Or one slate sample. Golden State was up by 12 after 3. They won by 8. Durant played 37 minutes. Green played 33. Thompson 36. Curry 35 normal minutes, right?
Yep.
Hill played 40. Satoransky 39. Ariza 39. How about the OKC Pelicans game? 13.5 point spread. Westbrook 37, Adams 36 minutes, Grant 35, George 38, Holiday 37, Miller 38, Hill 37. Starters are getting the minutes, man, and because you don't know. And a lot of times if the final score does look like a blowout, often it'll be in the fourth quarter. Of course, that doesn't mean blowouts aren't going to happen, but your ability to predict them accurately and fade or play guys based on that every single night,
right? It's
going to work against you more than it works for you. And that's really all it comes down to. It's not that games don't blow out. Of course they do. But the idea that, the idea that you're just better at predicting than anyone else, even though you're going off the same information as everyone is when it comes to Vegas, like a game can be knotted up after 3 or be a 6-point game. Starters get all their full run and still is decided by 13 points, but it doesn't affect it. And then how about this? Russell Westbrook triple-doubled 16 seconds into the third quarter. So there's also the fact that it could blow out. Westbrook could play 31 minutes and still have 70 fantasy points.
I mean, that's the Embiid stat lines of late, like where the 76ers are.
Harden too, yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm sort of taking Harden. And this is mathematically a stupid thing to say, but Harden is sort of that exception that I'm taking out of any analysis as of right now. But Embiid in 27 minutes is putting up gigantic numbers. And so here's the thing. If you're betting games, predict all the blowouts you want because that's what you're doing. You're trying to, figure out over-unders and spreads, and you're deciding winner or loser versus the spread, or you're betting money lines, whatever it is. This is a second level down. You can't take the spread or the blowout to be the game factor and the only game factor. The only thing that's going to warrant playing a Westbrook or playing a Curry or playing a Harden because their price points and because of the potential spread. And Dave said it many times over, and I've echoed it, parroted it, whatever you want to say. If these blowouts are happening, they're happening because of these players more often than not. As the Westbrook point, you triple-doubled in the third quarter. And so
16 seconds into the third quarter.
Fair. Like through 2 quarters and 1/200th of another quarter. I think it's a good debate. I think it's a fun debate. I think it's a manufactured debate, and one that I'm going to always say play the players in the best spot to put up the most points, whether in a blowout or not, or whether you think there could be potential for a blowout. Sort of that's some noise to me at times. And
think about it. How far ahead does a team have to be after 3 quarters?
There it is.
To sit your starters.
That's a statistical analysis that I would actually love to see. Like a data scientist who's out there, that is numbers I would love to see of when starters,
it's tough because all coaches are different though.
Well, absolutely. But at least you get a norm. You get at least some sort of
you get an average. But I'll just give you an example. Tonight, the Warriors were up by 12, won by 8. all the starters for both teams played their normal rotations in the fourth quarter.
Yes, sir.
How about the Pelicans? The Pelicans were down by 15 going into the fourth quarter. No, 14. Lost by, they were down by 15 or 16 and ended up losing by 6. And all of them played the regular minutes on both sides. So, like, it all depends on the coach, number one. But if you're down by 10, 12, 14 points, that doesn't mean that they're not going to play. Like,
what's the context too? Back-to-backs, and it's injuries, and it's coaches, and it's like everything else. Yeah, absolutely. I
mean, yeah. How about the Minnesota blew out Phoenix the other day? Towns played 32 minutes.
Yep.
66 fantasy points. Go ahead and look at a lot of these games, and don't include the foul trouble. Like, he's played 32 minutes in all of them where you're not talking foul trouble, even in the blowouts. There will be wicked blowouts. Like they lost by 42 points to the Sixers. He played 28 minutes, but you're not predicting that anyway. And here's the best thing. That game had like a 4 or 5 point spread. Right.
Yep.
So when you're predicting blowouts, you're fading someone based on it. Not only are you predicting that they won't play those minutes in the fourth quarter, you're also predicting that they won't be the reason the blowout happens.
Yep.
I don't think
and even you take it another level further, and this is more anecdotal and less scientifically proven, but a team in the third quarter attempting to stay in a game would have their best players trying to keep it close. Now, again, a team like the Knicks tanking the way they are, again, that takes context and it takes them out of the mix.
Yeah, there's always context.
Right. Take a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves. Take a team like the Lakers. Teams that are teams that are trying to find where they are in the NBA right now. They're going to try to stay in third quarter games. They're not trying to, play for Zion Williams. They're trying to get into the playoffs and figure who they are. I just think it's a fool's errand, and it's too much noise for any individual person to actually project.
And you said the right thing. Like if you're sports betting, you're betting the point spread, that makes sense.
Right.
But when it comes down to that, it doesn't matter how they win or lose by that many points.
Yep.
Right. It only matters that it happens.
Yep.
In DFS, it's way different. You said it's a level down. It's actually a level up. DFS is a level up from that because there's more that goes into it than just.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I meant more of a drill down, more of a understand. Yeah, but same semantics, same exact premise there. 10 games here. I'm sure there's some blowouts projected from Vegas as we go through. We do. From time to time, try to cite some of the spreads. It's not where we start and end the podcast, but things that we do take into consideration. And I think that's one of the bigger facts of all. Is there's just so many pieces of information you're trying to bring in when you build your own projections or you're taking a projection from a site like Osmo.com. There's so much information that goes into that projection. There's so much that's happening. It's not cut or dry of a point spread from Vegas because everyone has that information. Everyone has it. And that's not winning you a GPP. It's not. It's not winning you a tournament. It's maybe min cashing for you, but you need to get more nuanced, more understanding, and drill down a little bit further on what you're doing each and every day. And we try to start you off here with an understanding of where Dave's looking initially, where we think there might be some value, and then obviously you get the NBA Strategy Show with Josh and Adam Friday morning for Friday. Then you get the deeper dive at 5 p.m. Dave and Adam, and then you get live before lock with the aforementioned Ed Fear, and then you get Spags not Endor. I keep using Endor when I shouldn't. Josh or Spags co-hosting with Eddie. So lots of content for free over on YouTube. For the article, for the projections, for the grades, for the rankings, you need to be a member, Osmo.com, and the promo code is earlybird. With all that said, let's dive into it. We start at point guard. Do you want to save Harden, or do you just want to get him out of the way here at 13-8?
I'm happy to get him out of the way. And by get him out of the way, I mean get him into lineups because, really at this rate, dude, I'm not even going to spend much time on him. It's crazy to me though that we're in January and he's $3,100 more than Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like the same Giannis Antetokounmpo that was
Running
expected
away with the
with
MVP.
the MVP.
Yep.
Exactly. Now Harden is like pretty heavy favorite. By the way, I got Harden at plus 400, I think.
Nice.
To MVP. I'm sure he won't win it now, but there was no way I could pass that.
Well, now that you said those numbers, like clearly the way, yeah.
But it was like January 4th, so Paul had been out for a couple weeks, and Giannis was still pretty heavily favored. I'm thinking, how do you not take that? You have to. Like, just it would be dumb not to. So, not a lot of money, of course, but it'll be fun to watch, especially once you get into the latter stages of the season. I'm hoping Chris Paul doesn't return.
I was going to say, yeah, he is questionable here. Yep.
Yeah. Which could have, but I mean, seriously, with the way Harden's playing, it's just unbelievable, man. He's too good. So I'll tell you right now, though, if Chris Paul does play, I can't pay that much for Harden. Because you're talking about replacing Austin Rivers for Chris Paul. That's a huge 1-for-1 swap. That's not a lateral move. It's not close. It's huge. Even if he only plays 25 minutes,
Yep.
It is still huge. So yeah, at that price, you wouldn't be able to play Harden. In the event that Harden or that Paul doesn't play, well then Harden is still very much in play. I mean, he's coming off a 97 fantasy point game. 97 fantasy points. It's outrageous, man. He's just too good. So that's all I have to say on Hart. But the position's got some decent plays. D'Angelo Russell did it again, right? His fourth 54 plus fantasy point performance in 5 games. He's got a 56, a 58.5, a 55.5, and a 54.3. Been great. Just really, really good. Like he's turned it. He's at another level right now. And don't forget, on the season, Russell's a 30% usage, 38% assist rate guy. The numbers are already there, right? You just got to know that the minutes are going to be there. And recently they have, because how dumb could Atkinson be to pull this guy off when he's playing this well? And I don't see, even if he starts slow, if you pull him off with the way he's been playing.
Well, and Dinwiddie's injured. So not that Dinwiddie and he are a straight swap for each other, but you have another guard down in that backcourt.
I thought he was questionable still, though.
I think they're saying he may have ligament damage in his thumb, I thought is what I read.
Oh, okay. Possible. So they say, yeah, he could be, but he's still listed as questionable. If he's out, though, I mean, you might have to put, let's see. I still see questionable here. Maybe you can look that up.
Yeah, it's right. So former NBA player and host on Fox Sports, Karan Butler, tweeted out that Dinwiddie could be dealing with torn ligaments in his finger. It's also from Brian Lewis of the New York Post that he's being evaluated for a right thumb injury. He's listed as questionable for Friday's game.
Okay. So if he doesn't play, that makes Russell like really, really appealing. Even at an elevated price point, when you're playing this well and you're facing the Knicks, the same team, he's not Harden. We know that. But the same team Harden just dropped 61 and 15 on in regulation. Yeah, Russell's a pretty solid player. Given, especially, he's not Harden, but he's 5,200. Think about that. He's $8,600 and Harden's $5,200 more expensive than him.
Yes, sir.
That's crazy, man.
I assume. Go ahead. No, do you have any more on Russell or?
No, I was just gonna say Luka Doncic is priced beneath him. And if Dinwiddie's out, I would just much prefer Russell over Doncic, even though Doncic has been really good.
Yeah, and what's your take, probably quickly here, on DSJ being back and how it affects Doncic? I know that affects his usage a little bit. Do you think Dallas has learned enough with Dennis Smith Jr. being out to let Doncic sort of have free reign over this offense, or do you think DSJ gets involved enough to bring Doncic down a peg or two?
Well, he played 37 minutes in his return after he'd been exiled. 37
Dave,
minutes.
He was sick, Dave. Don't start spreading rumors.
They all but admitted that it had nothing to do with an illness. Yeah. 4,800 though, if we're gonna get similar run, like if maybe they're trying to showcase him right now, that could be it. You never know. I don't like to read too far into that. You start getting yourself in trouble. But 37 minutes is a lot of minutes for a guy that's 4,800, right?
Yep.
I played Darius Miller at 3,300 because I expected him to play upwards of 40 minutes after Randall was out. And we all know I do not like Darius Miller. But sometimes you just have to pull the trigger on that, and Smith could be that guy. Another one would obviously be Shabazz Napier, and he'll be chalk. There's no question. Like that. That's obvious, right? He will be chalk, but Shabazz Napier against the Knicks, assuming Dinwiddie's out, and I mean you have to assume. You have to assume, and here's one that actually just came out an hour ago, that that said so he's being evaluated, but the severity is still unclear.
Right.
My guess, if it's if this is the case, that I would be very surprised to see him play, especially with the Nets. Yes, the Nets being 10-point favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, of course, my guess would be that we get Spencer Dinwiddie out and Shabazz Napier 3,600 in, and then you kind of know what to do at that point. You just play him. I don't care popularity there, how high owned he is, because it's very difficult for Napier playing 28, 30 minutes to kill you against the Knicks. It really is.
A couple of mid-tier guys I want to touch on before moving to shooting guard. Thoughts on, maybe not mid-tier, maybe overstating a little bit. Mike Conley here against Sacramento at 7,700.
Yeah, Conley. Now the rumors are that
right.
Finally the front office is open to some trade offers. We'll see if that's the case. Yeah, it's a good spot against Memphis. A huge pace-up matchup. He's played well against them through 3 meetings this season. I don't have an issue with Conley. The problem is though that at that price point, I think I'm going to have a tough time getting to him, and for reasons already stated, and also just there are good value plays here too. Tyler Johnson started last game, played 36 minutes. I don't know if that's going to be the case again, but if he starts, he's also dirt cheap. There is value here, and generally we don't have this much to turn to. I have no idea what the case is going to be with Alonzo Trier, but facing Brooklyn, if he gets the big run again, of course, we'd be insane to expect Alonzo Trier to drop 31 points and 10 rebounds and 51 fantasy points. That's just silly. I'm still heated about this Enes Kanter thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's there as a tournament play. I would expect him still to go super low, and then probably for good reason. I have, just to be clear, no faith in that. And then you have someone that is $1,100 cheaper in Chris Dunn, who, I get it, has not been playing all that well, but they've been involved in so many blowouts lately. Against the Clippers, another serious pace-up spot here in a matchup that I like quite a bit. Chris Dunn, you're going to get a good game sooner or later drawing these matchups, and sooner or later the Bull. Adam and I joked saying if there's one team that you're willing to concede that you can predict blowouts with, it is the Bulls, because of how bad they've been. Or I'm sorry, the Cavs. The Cavs with how bad they've been. But the Bulls haven't been very good either. That said, I'm still not going to let it influence the decision there when he's that good of a price. So it's just a deep position from top to bottom here. And even if Chris Paul plays, I still don't think we'll have any trouble getting plenty of guys we like at point guard.
Yep. Not always the case. That's an overstatement, but quite often the case where point guard is deep, and then we try to find some value at other positions, or at least see where we can pay down. Often point guard does give you value. It's just whether or not you want to pull the trigger. DK gives us a lot more of an opportunity there with multi-position eligibility and the guard and utility spots to move some pieces around. Shooting guard here, you have Harden, obviously. Then you have Beal, Donovan Mitchell with Rubio back. D'Angelo Russell is shooting guard eligible at 8,600. Levine, Jamal Murray is up here at 7,100, coming off a poor shooting performance. 3 for 11, just took 2 3-pointers in 28 minutes against Utah last time out. Gets a matchup here with Phoenix. And then you have Buddy Hield, Lou Williams. Let's see who else. Will Barton is at 6,100, coming off a very solid shooting outing maybe why we saw a downgrade in Murray's output there a bit. You mentioned folks who are on the block. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been said to be on the block from the Knicks. Not sure who's picking up that contract, but supposedly he is out there for the taking. And then you get to likes of Fournier, Bogdanovich, Kelly Oubre. Top end here, is Beal in the mix against Orlando, or do you see yourself potentially paying down a little bit cheaper here at shooting guard?
So yesterday when it came to Beal, it was more so, can we prioritize Beal over the rest of the field?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer ended up being no. Was he bad? No, but if you didn't play him, you were probably pretty happy about it, especially if you had Drew Holiday. Or what I went with, and I do not know yet if it's going to work, but Elfrid Payton and Rajon Rondo in a few lineups, which was going cheaper there. Payton finished with 45. Rondo is, I'm sure I'll jinx it here. You know how I am. Rondo's 4 minutes in. He's got 11 fantasy points. He's looking solid. So we'll see what happens there. There were a lot of ways to get away from Beal without having to pay that, and I think that ended up being the right decision. Justin Holiday is a cheap shooting guard option here. I'll move around a little bit. Talk about some point per dollar guys. 40 minutes last game. Listen, that was against Charlotte, New Orleans, then Toronto, Boston. So outside of New Orleans, he hasn't had the greatest matchups and just in terms of pace and getting a few additional possessions. And even defensively, those are some smothering defenses, Toronto and Boston at least. But if you're getting 38, 40 minutes a night, I'm still going to at least consider you here against Sacramento. It is a really good spot. And even Justin Holiday might be able to put up some quality numbers. Will he? Your guess is as good as mine. But you're still getting him 38 minutes. It's hard to get away from that. Another punt, too, and the same price. Equally sketchy for different reasons is Dion Waiters. Dion Waiters has played 22, then 26, then 29 minutes over his last 3 games. Is it possible that we start seeing additional run for Waiters? It could be, and if that is the case, then he will become, that much more appealing. I thought that game was interesting because I took the plunge on Whiteside and just, said, all right, let's hope Spoelstra is smart if Whiteside gets off to a good start. And he did, and he actually got the minutes. I could not believe it. He played 32 and a half minutes. It was a beautiful thing. But the starting lineup in that game was Tyler Johnson, Josh Richardson, Justice Winslow, James Johnson, and Hassan Whiteside. I don't know what the starting lineup's going to look like. I couldn't tell you, but keep a close eye on that because you could get some decent value. And, Waiters played 28 minutes. I've been saying this a lot lately, but real short. There's a lot of players on this team, but Spoelstra's been running a short bench. He ran only 9 players in that game, and Derek Jones played only a few minutes. Adebayo played 15. Wade and Waiters were the 2 guys that actually got run. Waiters saw the most minutes of anybody off the bench and actually the 5th most minutes on the team altogether. It's not a crazy idea because once in a while Waiters can get going, and this is that type of team where you never know who it's going to be from night to night. Now at the top of the position, with the multi-position eligibility, right? Harden if Paul's out, D'Angelo Russell. I do like Beal here. I don't think I ever actually answered the question. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to what does the rest of the field look like?
Sure.
Well, you have Jokic against Phoenix up top. You got Antetokounmpo against Charlotte at 10-7. Drummond's expected to play, so you're not going to pay that much for Griffin. At least I wouldn't hope you would. Vooch against Washington, and he just continues to be outstanding. As I mentioned, the only player in the league with a usage rate, rebound rate, and assist rate above 20%, which is incredible. And then you have Beal, and then beneath him you've got Russell and guys like Doncic and a few others. I do think this is one of those nights where you could look at Bradley Beal because even though he's on the second of a back-to-back, Scott Brooks is probably going to give him another 38 minutes. I'd be super surprised if he didn't. This game should stay close. There's no reason to believe it wouldn't. 4-point spread, 217.5 total. Beal is not a bad player at the top. But I think one thing I'll probably be doing, and value may open up. We don't know about all the injuries. You could do a lot of D'Angelo Russell or Napier at shooting guard, and then guys that we already talked about at point guard there. And I feel like that's probably a good move. But Devin Booker was one of the big reasons, and I don't know how that's going to pan out. Right now, right now it definitely could be better from Devin Booker. He's at 27 fantasy points with 1:09 left in the third quarter, but it's 7,500 on DraftKings. How do you get away from that? Even 79 on FanDuel he's
Yep.
still sub 8K. And it's tough, especially if with Warren sidelined, it makes it even tougher to ignore somebody like Devin Booker. And we know that Warren's out for 2 to 3 weeks, so Booker's in play once again.
All right. We have a lot to get to. Small forward on through center. Power forward, obviously, in between there. A lot of this MPE will carry over to small forward next. Reminder, you get the deep dive from Dave Monday, Wednesday, Friday over there at awesemo.com. Again, if you want to join, use the promo code EARLYBIRD for 50% off your first month. And while you're here, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, one. Also, hit the like button, leave a comment. We love reading the comments, during the day, but also happy to read them here on the show itself. Over on iTunes or any podcasting app, if you're on SoundCloud specifically, like the podcast, share it on social media, and, of course, subscribe wherever you are. Leave a comment if you are on iTunes or Stitcher or TuneIn. I know those three have commenting features. So let us know what you like, and let us know how long you've been listening, and we'll be happy to read it here on the podcast. So let's hit small forward next. Giannis is at the top here, 10-7 against Charlotte. Price point that is at least appealing for the upside you can get from ABC on any given night. We haven't seen it necessarily in about 8 games. Toronto, he put up 73.5 DraftKings points at an 11-3 price point. So he's at 10-7 here, which seems palatable, though a 10-game slate. Trying to get to all the guys you want to play might be tough. You have Kawhi Leonard back off quote-unquote load management is what I saw it referred to as a few times, also known as rest. Should be back in the lineup here to take on James Harden and the Houston Rockets. You have Doncic, Tobias Harris is here. You have Aaron Gordon dealing with his back issues, but he was back in the lineup on Wednesday against Brooklyn, played just 25 minutes. Not a great outing. Just 10.6 rebounds for Aaron Gordon there. And then we get into somewhat of a middle tier that's not all that appealing. Wonder if you have plays there. But let's start at the top. Give me your thoughts, if you can, on Giannis and Kawhi, and then we'll move to the mid-tier.
I do like Giannis here. It's just I've had a tough time spending up to him lately. Do you like Giannis? It sounds crazy, but would you rather have Giannis? And I'm asking you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have Giannis, or would you rather have Nikola Jokic at $100 difference? Jokic is facing the Phoenix Suns.
Right. Jokic against potentially no Ayton, even if there's an Ayton there. No Holmes. Dragan Bender could be center.
This is certainly where people would worry about a blowout with Denver, but there's no question that Milwaukee could do the same. They're 11-point favorites. So
I think both have legitimate upside. Jokic feels like more likely to get a triple-double than Giannis here. I will say I will take the stance now, may change tomorrow, positional scarcity and feeling like small forward and power forward have less to offer. I'd rather Giannis over Jokic. Okay.
Fair enough. To me, I really want to see I don't like to use it as a cop-out, but I really want to see what ownership projections look like on these two guys.
And we have that available over at awesemo.com.
Yeah, they're so helpful. If people are scared off by the potential blowout, then, especially, Phoenix on the second of a back-to-back.
If they're afraid of a potential blowout, rewind to about the 2-minute mark of this podcast, listen to about the 6-minute mark of this podcast, then continue on. But go ahead. Go ahead with what.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? There's a very good chance this game blows out.
Right. Of course.
Like they'll probably be 13-point favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's very tough, again, to use that information. And what if Jokic is the reason they blow them out? So yeah, there's that. I find Kawhi pretty interesting here. I don't like paying premiums for Kawhi Leonard. We all know that.
Right.
But I am pretty intrigued by this spot. Going up against James Harden here. If I had to guess, and I could be wrong, I want to say this is going to be nationally televised.
That's an interesting question.
Not that ESPN. There you go. It just feels like a nationally televised game. Not that it matters, but if you don't have like League Pass or you don't have a way to watch each game, Well, lucky you, because this one should be good. I expect Harden alone to keep him competitive. And it's 2.5 point spread, by the way, which kind of suggests that you might see Chris Paul. I don't mind Kawhi here, though. I think this is actually a really good spot for him. I don't know. You're not worried about like PJ Tucker slowing him down. You really shouldn't be. I have respect for PJ Tucker's grind. Don't get me wrong, but I'm certainly not looking at it as an instance where he puts the brakes on Kawhi Leonard. I don't see that happening.
Right.
Small forward though, a couple guys are interesting. Otto Porter's one of them. DraftKings, he's still 6,100, and I think that's a pretty reasonable price point, right? You're going to get value. You might need to go to a couple mid-range guys. He could be one of them. He played 34 and a half minutes off the bench last night. Mind you, he did not have a good game. He shot 3 for 14. So what do you have? 16, 20, 24, 26, 7. Around 27, 28 fantasy points, shooting 3 for 14, had 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, a steal, 7 points. But he still shot 14 times and played almost 35 minutes. I'll take that all day, right?
Yep.
Against Orlando, no problem with that. I also, somebody that was in my lineups yesterday and will likely be in them again today is Kelly Oubre. The matchup against Portland was not particularly favorable. It was not a great matchup, but who cares?
What a world.
The guy, right, because TJ Warren's out and he's going to get run. And, right as of now, he's having a significantly better game than Josh Jackson, who I'm pretty sure was significantly higher owned.
Oh, I would guarantee. I wouldn't guarantee it, but yeah. I would assume as much the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's something very interesting though. We're 30 seconds into the fourth quarter. So let's just say through 3 quarters, Booker leads the team with 17 field goal attempts. Oubre has 14 and no one else is in double digits. Oubre is legitimately, becoming playing an integral role on this basketball team. Even before Warren went out, even when they were pretty healthy, Oubre was getting a lot of runs. So I'm all about it. And he's clearly been, I know they're not trying to win, but he's doing them more favors than Bridges is. So at a good price, expected to get good run. I like Kelly Oubre quite a bit. I think you don't have to pay up at small forward if you don't want to. And I think a lot of us probably won't want to or don't think you need to. I'd expect maybe Joe Harris to get a few additional minutes here. That's not fun, but he's facing the Knicks. And expect Dinwiddie, who's been playing around 28 minutes per game, 28 crucial minutes per game off the bench. We'll assume that he's going to be out. And then, of course, I don't know what the case is with Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. Not saying it affects Harris, but that could change this team dynamic up a lot. Strange shoulder. So my guess is that Hollis-Jefferson will find his way to the bench once again.
It's, Oubre is one of those names that I think will continue to have just a negative connotation from his time in Washington and under delivering comparatively to some of the promise you saw from his athleticism. I think at Kansas, his freshman year, and he declared after freshman year that was not over the top, but he's still, I think, 23 or 24. Like it's not a guy who's completely washed in the NBA. In the right situation and the right upside, you could see some production out of him. And if that price point stays down for a little while, but the volume is there and the minutes are there, especially as you said with TJ Warren out, could see some definite upside, especially as Josh Jackson continues to flounder. Like he just does not seize control of enough opportunities there in Phoenix to make. He
had a really big game the other night, but
that was one game. There's the game where Booker got ejected.
Correct.
He ended up having a big game, and he had one game where Booker was out. That was a gigantic game.
Right.
And that's great, but he's not becoming off the bat what they hope. I think Oubre is in a legitimate spot to have a good rest of the season there for Phoenix.
And he'd been playing well with Booker healthy, with Warren. I used the example on the deeper dive of Norman Powell was always in play when DeMar DeRozan would get hurt, and he would start, right? And then either it was CJ Miles or Anunoby. I don't remember who it was, but whoever was starting at the 3 would get hurt. And DeRozan would be healthy. And Norman Powell would get the spot start at small forward. And people would say, well, he's been great when he starts. Ignoring that he's been great when he starts because you're taking a 32% usage player out of the lineup. Right. Well, take an Anunoby or a CJ Miles or whoever the hell it was out of the lineup and replace him with Norman Powell. Keep DeRozan and Lowry in there. Norman Powell's just another guy that's going to stand around and get a few spot-up attempts each night. It's not the same with Jackson because he's better than Norman Powell, and he can at least do some stuff outside of hit three-pointers. But it's similar in that, oh, well, Josh Jackson's starting. Expect similar production to when he started when Booker was out, and you shouldn't.
No, and I think it's a good point just in general about just because somebody's in the starting lineup doesn't mean their production's going to go up. A lot of the times it goes down. Usage goes down and points go down simply because they're playing.
I prefer Oubre off the bench for sure.
Yeah, they're playing with
stagger the minutes.
Better players. The ball's not in their hands as much. All right, let's talk power forward. We have Giannis here. You mentioned Blake already with Drummond back. Makes sense. Kawhi's at 9.5. Tobias Harris is at 8.2. We get to our first power forward that we haven't talked about with Montrezl Harrell. You have Aaron Gordon, who I mentioned. Lauri Markkanen's at 6,500. And we get into, again, a mid-tier here that I don't really have a good feeling about. I guess you could talk about a Noah Vonleh here if he starts at the 5 for the Knicks again. You have Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. Against Sacramento at 54.
I like the sound of J3 better.
All right. I mean, if you want to impose your will on the podcast, that's fine. I mean, I thought this was a partnership.
Fair enough. It is. It is. And partners let each other know when they've been. We played a game on the Deeper Dive to ask the chat, we need a nickname for him.
Sure.
We got a lot of good ones. Jaron Haxon was a pretty solid one. This was when he was fouling out every single game.
It's a solid contribution. That is a very solid contribution. What do you got here at power forward? I think there are some guys in decent spots, but again, scrolling through doesn't feel like one I'm overly enamored with any one particular player.
I think what you mentioned about Noah Vonleh is actually pretty solid, right? Mitchell Robinson played 17 minutes in that game. And what I love is that it was decided by 4 points. So we have a decent idea.
Right.
We have a decent idea what it would look like in a close game, assuming they had a normal coach. That's the problem, right? Assuming that they weren't trying to lose games and assuming that Fizdale was actually, looking to find the best rotation. I wish that was the case. We don't know. We can, however, assume that if the same starting lineup is released and the same guys are in the starting 5 to start this game, that Noah Vonleh would actually be a really good play. He played 31 minutes, 32 minutes the game prior. Hell, even if Cantor plays like 18 minutes, I'd still expect Vonleh to easily play 30 plus. You would just see somebody like Lance Thomas, who started in that game, maybe not play at all like he had been. There's plenty of ways for Vonleh to still get 30 minutes, and I think it's probable that he does. I also like Lauri Markkanen here against this Clippers team. It's a nice matchup. It's a big pace-up spot. The Clippers defensively have been really bad. I mean, they've really struggled, not just at one or two positions, but really across the board. And opposing bigs have beat them up quite nicely. Even in some of these blowouts, Markkanen 34 minutes, 32 minutes, 34 minutes. That even more solidifies the idea that you can feel okay playing him, knowing that he'll get the run, even if you're someone that worries about a blowout. 6,500 is a very nice price point on him. Montrezl Harrell came off the bench last time out. Doc Rivers switched the lineup up again, threw Gortat in, and Harrell played 26 minutes. I really don't know what type of run we're going to get from him here. I think 6,700 against Chicago is interesting. I can tell you that much. I think in the same game, Bobby Portis, who started the second half, ended up playing 33 minutes in the game. Also very interesting. It's amazing, though, how bad of a game he had. 20 fantasy points in 33 minutes against the Hawks. I mean, that's tough to do. But when you talk about really good matchups for centers, this is one of them. Now, bigger centers, kind of more traditional guys, or at least bruisers, or guys that can do a bunch of everything like an Embiid or a Towns, you would prefer, but you can't always get them, right? That's not going to happen every matchup. There's a Clippers team that on the season is allowing the most points to the center position, and it's really no coincidence. They're allowing the 4th most rebounds to the position. You could go across the board, and they've given it up in almost every category. They're also allowing the 3rd most blocks to the position, and they've been trashed in that category. So Bobby Portis, I would expect that Bobby Portis does get the start here. It would only make sense. And the kind of interesting here is like Boylan as an interim coach, you're kind of trying to be good enough, right? To at least show that, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Not to say that he doesn't, but unless the front office is like, hey, just do your thing,
keep the lights on for us for a while. Yeah.
Bird box it, put a blindfold on and go to town. But if that's the case, even so, if Portis starts, he played 33 minutes last game. I'm not sure how you don't like that against the Clippers.
Any thoughts? And I don't believe I heard you mention him on Kenneth Faried. Price point is up to 5,300 here, but seeing decent amount of minutes for Houston. Do you like this matchup against Toronto?
Yeah, I like them. Well, no, I don't like the matchup. I like that Fareed is a high energy guy that can put up big numbers in a hurry. Probably one of those spots where you can get away from him though. And here's why. First of all, if this was against the Clippers, this is against Cleveland, Chicago, you name it, I'd probably have more interest. But I think you have some better options here. Otto Porter, I like better because I know he's going to play probably 8 to 10 more minutes than Fareed, low end estimate. Noah Vonleh is another one. Bobby Portis, assuming he gets the start, even if it's just tough to believe that, with the way last game transpired and Robin Lopez, literally he played 15 minutes in the game and didn't start the second half. When that happens and you're not injured, unless it was a one-time thing where he did something to piss Boylan off, he just wasn't playing well enough. And mind you, he was the only starter in the second half not to start. So it wasn't because the Hawks took a very early first half lead. So it's not like he line shifted it like we'd see Pop do or someone do that ruins everything like Jaeger did earlier this season. No, it was just Robin Lopez. And Bobby Portis ended up playing, 6.5, so 12, 13, 14 minutes in the first half. And then in the second half, well, if he played 14 minutes, you can do the math there. Played what's that, 19? Yeah, 19 minutes in the second half, 19 of 24 minutes. I like that, which means that Fareed, I don't dislike him. I just think you have some better plays at a very similar price point, whether it's because of minutes or similar per minute production and a better matchup. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I will also say that you mentioned J3, or sorry, 3Js, whatever you call him. He's facing Sacramento, and the minutes are kind of erratic. The foul trouble is always an issue, which was last game. But 5,400 against the Kings, I have interest in the man with 3Js.
You can find him on a street corner near you. Let's talk about center and close out this podcast, as entertaining as it is. We have Jokic here, Karl Anthony Towns. Vucevic has a matchup with Washington, which is a prime spot as well. We get Drummond potentially back against Dallas. Marc Gasol against Sacramento. Those are some pretty damn good matchups, and that's just 10-6 on through 8,300. What do you got at the top end of center?
Well, I think we all know that this is one of those positions that's kind of loaded day in and day out. I'm going to ask you first. What do you think about your boy Jarrett Allen against the New York Knicks? Battle of the what is this? A cross city rivalry?
The Battle of the Boroughs is probably what it would be dubbed as. The Battle of the Boroughs.
Minutes are back down though.
That's the concern. RHJ was back, and I don't know if he's back on questionable status here.
Yes.
I love Allen's. You talking about the motor?
Hollis Jefferson's minutes hadn't really been influencing it, and Ed Davis comes back from playing 7 minutes in a game to 22, 25, and 19. That's the thing. When they split minutes, Davis a lot of times eats into them, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I wonder if that's hot hand from Atkinson, or what really makes that a thing that happens for the Nets. I don't watch a ton of Nets games, and I honestly don't follow them too closely. I love Jared Allen, and you talk about sort of the motor, and you talk about peripherals, the blocks, and the rebounds. I think are more than reasonable to think we'll have some upside here. If Noah Vonleh is starting against Jared Allen, I think he's in a fine spot to put up more than a reasonable outing. Even if Cantor, hell, like, what am I talking about? He's in more than a good spot to put up a fine outing. I don't know that's where I go initially here. I probably look at the high end to try to find somebody who has gigantic upside, but I think Allen's more than reasonable for a solid and reasonable floor, one you can project pretty easily. I think his upside tends to be fairly limited just because he's just not a scorer. He's not somebody that's going to give you those gigantic nights of going, 15 of 19 on layups, and it's just not in his DNA. So I'd take him, but he's not somebody I lean to right away.
Yeah, I think that's fair. 5,800 though in tournaments is really nice, especially if your center rotations like Vonleh, Mitchell Robinson, and whoever else you deem worthy of filling the position, as long as it's not Enes Kanter.
Right. He has to be traded soon. Like, it has to happen.
I was going to say, keep an eye on that, because after the game, they interviewed him, and this came out where he said, I was told I was going to start. Yep. So it's kind of frustrating. I'm paraphrasing.
So I pulled this up before. So exactly, I pulled up the article with all of these quotes in it, and Kanter went on saying that he was told in the morning he was going to start. Fizdale came out saying, we never told him he was going to start. We said it was a possibility. Once I knew he wasn't going to be in the lineup, I sent my assistant to go tell him. All the messages were delivered to Kanter. But I just wanted to read this one to you, and this is from before, and then I'll let you continue. Mm-hmm. David Fizdale, when asked, will distractions become a concern if Kanter continues to complain about rotations? Fizdale, and I'm quoting directly from this article here, what are we going to do? Lose more games?
That's awesome. That is a great answer.
Life as a Knicks fan, in one quote.
He's a gritty dude.
I'm a big fan of his, honestly. I like him a lot.
So am I. He doesn't hold back, and that's what I like. Like, he doesn't hold back. Did you see Pop? Did you see the I quote retweeted Pop last?
I did not.
Last night, and so basically what he said when they asked him, they said, what do you think about Ben Simmons? Is there anything you've seen that, when you go back and watch it on tape that you're going to have to pay attention to now that he's starting to take some more jumpers, which he actually is starting to make them? It's kind of impressive. How long that will last, no one knows. But he goes, I think he starts with, I don't care. And then just long pause. And I think, man, you got to pay these Spurs beat reporters more. Just long pause. I don't care. I wish I have it somewhere, but
I see. I have it. It's just audio, right? So I'd have to.
Right. Yeah. It's but then he goes, I don't watch film.
Yep.
Because basketball is boring.
Yep. Everybody's doing the same thing.
Everyone does the same thing, and it's just an amazing answer coming from a guy that has won so many games and had such a high level of success. To be like, I don't watch film. He goes, are we defeated? No. So I watch film of my own team because we've lost games and we can get better. And it was just, that was it. And everyone's like, oh, wow. Okay.
Exactly. Oh,
and then the reporter likely starts to, question his own existence.
Why am I here? Why of all the professions in the world, of all the people, of all the places to live, I chose here.
I had my one shot to ask Pop a question.
Exactly.
And now I'm a meme. Yeah, so
I'll have to listen to it when the show's over. But hey, coaches who tell the truth, always fun. Guys who are willing to be honest about the way they go about their business. And he's not wrong. Like, he's not like, there's a beauty in I watch my own team. And try to get better.
Yeah,
and that makes a ton of sense.
The honesty of it too.
Yep.
But what I was saying before we got wildly sidetracked is
I do that sometimes.
Yeah. Center outside of the power forward eligible guys, like the cheaper guys, whether it be Vonleh, assuming he starts at the 5, Jackson in tournaments, That's Jaren Jackson Jr., by the way. Bobby Portis. If you want to throw Kenneth Reed out there, sure. And then we talked about Jared Allen as a tournament play because, there is a lot of upside in that price point in this matchup. But you're talking about the expensive guys, right? You got Jokic, who is at a great spot. There's no question. Everybody likes Jokic. Is there blowout concern? Of course there is. But he's still Nikola Jokic. And aside from that, it gets kind of ugly. Marc Gasol's all the way up to 8,300. I just really don't have much interest in going there. I still don't think he's fully healthy. I get it. He's coming off that monster triple-double, so how could I say such a thing? He needs to show at least some semblance of consistency, though.
Sure.
Because, yes, he's coming off a really big game, but his price tag raised $1,000 overnight. 73, 72, 7,400. I'd be more inclined to pay for him. But at that price, I'll just get up to Vooch, who I know every night is just gonna smash. The one that I keep circling back to is Karl Anthony Towns, because it's not a particularly appealing matchup with Utah, but he's down to 10K. And his usage is still very high. His per minute production's at like 1.8 over the last 30 days. He's been fantastic. So at 10K, I'm assuming no one wants to play him against Utah. I do have a decent amount of interest in Towns. I don't think you get there in cash, probably not necessary, but I definitely want to play him in some spots. And then aside from that, you're looking at, I loved what I saw from Bagley last game, 38 minutes too. How beautiful was that? I mean, finally getting there's finally some sense here. And Bielitsa didn't play, right? So that sucks. But does Bagley come out after that performance, playing 38 minutes in that game? Now, who was out? It was Bielitsa, Shumpert, right? I think. Yep. And both of them are expected back. But it's not like Bagley's price went up. It went from 5K to 5,300. Not a great spot, but just somebody that I'm looking at once again as a tournament pivot that my guess will be like 1 or 2% owned, assuming that everyone's healthy for Sacramento. If you could get 32 minutes a night or even tonight from Bagley, you're going to like that. He's a +1 per minute guy and he's 5,300. So I really like that 5 to 6K, 5 to like $5,900 range on DraftKings a lot.
All right. Any further names that you want to throw out there before we go to our same question of every single podcast?
Well, one more time. I know it's been ugly, and I know, most people don't like when I bring them up, but now I didn't play him yesterday, or I did a little bit, but not as much as the first two times. Dragon Bender, if Ayton and Holmes are out,
he's still cheap.
Right. He's there if you need him. It's kind of one of those things. If you need somebody at a dirt cheap price point, Bender's there. Aside from that, though, I think we've touched on almost all of the value here, and a lot of them have power forward eligibility as well.
I almost made a really bad analogy that I'll share with you after the podcast. Find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Stravard. It's Osmo_com for Osmo.com on Twitter. Of course, use the promo code EARLYBIRD if you want 50% off your first month at Osmo.com. Tomorrow morning, you get EMAC, you get Adam, you get the NBA Strategy Show first thing Friday morning around 9:15 with Adam and Josh. You get the deeper dive at 5 p.m. You get live before lock at 6 p.m., leading you up to, surprisingly, lock time around 7 p.m. Eastern, and that is with Josh or Spags and Ed Fear. So with that said...
And/or Ed Fear.
That's right. With that said, we get to our final question of the day, and this is where we're going to leave it. Towns, Jokic, Giannis, or Harden, who is your 10K or above player of the day?
If Paul's out, it's going to be Harden. And I think you have, right now at least, enough value to make a nice balanced lineup around him, right? It sounds weird, but I think you can create balance around Harden.
Right. It's about all 8 players you're playing, not just the one. Yep.
Right. And you're going to have to play a Shabazz Napier or something, right? Like, it's going to have to happen. But we talk about the 5-6K range. It's pretty nice. I'm not saying you have to take that route. You could go complete stars and scrubs, but there's more than one way to do it, which is what would make me like Harden more. Aside from that, man, I think I'm going to hitch my cart to Jokic, but ownership will play a big role. If it appears that Jokic is going to be criminally underowned because of the blowout concerns, then I'll probably just have more.
That's going to do it for the DFS Early Bird. As I said, you get Adam and Emac on Saturday morning. Dave and I are back with you Monday morning right here on the DFS Early Bird, presented by Awesemo.com.